Cory Geiger along with Neil Rudel. Thought we would wrap up some of Penn State's season, but also take a look at Bill O'Brien's future. And Neil, he tells an Atlanta radio station yesterday that he plans to be back at Penn State in 2013. His agent, Joe Linta, tells ESPN.com that they've had no conversations with anyone, that he expects Bill O'Brien to be back at Penn State. What do you make of that aspect of the news now in late November?
Well, I think it was important at some point that he clarified, at least for the immediate future, which would be this year. I mean, Penn State's obviously in a tenuous situation because of the NCAA sanctions where all these players could leave. So if Bill O'Brien left, I really think it would be the equivalent of the program practically having to shut down for a year. I just don't see, I think it would do irreparable harm. That said, it doesn't surprise me that he clarified it. He was being kind of coy during the season when he was asked late in the season a couple times. Maybe because there's no openings in the NFL, which, you know, people probably think that might be more applicable to him than college for right now. But maybe there's some other underlying reason.
Well, let's do a good news, bad news kind of thing. The good news is he was named the Big Ten Coach of the Year. And just think about that. You go 8-4, and you're named the Coach of the Year over Urban Meyer, who goes undefeated and finishes in the top 5. That speaks to the job that Bill O'Brien did from January to August as much as it does from September until now. So, I mean, a terrific job from that standpoint, and I thought very well deserved.
Yeah, and I think it was the right choice. I mean, you look at what he inherited and the obstacles he had to overcome versus what Meyer had to overcome against, you know, let's face it, the Big Ten is really down this year. And Meyer didn't, I mean, he really struggled with a couple teams that could have beaten him. Purdue in particular. Indiana put 49 points on them. So, you know, I think it was the right choice. You know, I think people that vote for those awards are always looking for a unique angle, not necessarily the guy that finishes undefeated. And I think in this case it was deserved.
Now, the potential bad news is, and I'm with Neil on this, he had to come out and make some kind of statement saying that he's going to stay. You need some level of stability going into the offseason at this point. But the potential bad news is it's late November. There are no NFL job openings right now. There are no, you know, huge college. I doubt he would leave for a college opening, but, you know, Auburn is, who knows where that might go. But at some point, there may be an offer in late December or January or February. And we're not out of the woods yet just because in late November he says that he's staying put.
Well, I mean, I'm going to take him at his word for this year. I think the bigger picture is the fact that it even kind of got some legs, which I feel that he gave it some legs, he and Joe Linta. You know, it's just, and maybe that's sort of the approach that NFL guys have. You never say never. You know, at this point, you've already seen, you know, this guy's a good football coach. You've already seen that. How good, we don't know yet. But I think he's already clearly way exceeded expectations for what he did in 1 year. Now, granted, you know, they lost a couple close games, but all the things that he had thrown at him and the way the team transformed on the field, I think he was really impressive. Now, can you say that he's going to be here till the end of his contract? You know, I think that's highly questionable.
Yeah, to me, I mean, the guy maximizes talent as well as maybe anyone in college football for this year, and we saw his staff did as well. I want to make sure to give his staff credit as well. But who knows? If by some crazy scenario Bill Belichick retires in February or something happens with the Jets job or the Cowboys job, I just don't know that we can say definitively he's going to be here in 2013 yet. But as you said, you take him at his word.
I take him at his word. You know, the New England thing, you know, to me, if Belichick was going to get out, because, I mean, his family's from up that way, you know, that would be, you would think if he had a short list of dream jobs, that probably would be on it. But if Belichick thought he was going to give it one more year, and he thought O'Brien would be a guy that would be in the mix for that job, I'm guessing he might have said, hey, you know, do you really want to go to Penn State and inherit that situation right now? Why don't you stay here one more year? And so I kind of doubt that the New England job will open that quickly.
And good news is you're 8-4, but you're really one of the talks of college football for good reasons, as opposed to some of the bad reasons over the past year. And that's a good problem to have. You want to have your people be hot commodities, do you not?
It's such an interesting, you know, obviously you had more stability than you ultimately wanted with Joe, because I think everybody was ready for a change of the guard. Obviously not the way it happened, but for the past several years, it's a shame Joe didn't get out when people felt better. I mean, obviously before this situation totally exploded, to a situation now where you're wondering if the guy's going to stay after a year or two. I think the dicey part of it is when you're in the NFL, the players come to you. When you're in college, you got to go out and sell these people on recruiting, and I think that makes it. I'm not sure what he's telling, the Christian Hackenbergs and his parents and his family, the people that are going to entrust their sons to Bill O'Brien and Penn State. So I think he's going to have to be more definitive, and I think this interview that he had, apparently with a guy that he must have known from the Boston area, help put some of that to rest for now.
And, again, the good news is he is a hot commodity and he's able to maximize and coach up the talent. The bad news is that they lose some outstanding players off this team in Michael Motti, Gerald Hodges, Jordan Hill, Matt Stankiewicz, and, of course, Matt McGloin, who had probably the best single-season passing season in Penn State history in terms of a numbers standpoint. You got to replace all those guys, and you're going into it with the meat of the NCAA sanctions starting next year. Bill O'Brien did say, on the Big Ten Network program Tuesday night that, or Monday night, this is going to be a challenge. Tuesday night, this is going to be a challenge for us. And obviously, with these recruiting limitations for the next really 5 years, 14 starting this year, you can only offer 15 scholarships, and then the 65 limit kicks in 2014. He has to look at that and know that that's going to be a pretty serious challenge.
Oh, no question about it. And I don't know that they're going to be. I mean, I thought defensively they played pretty well most of the year. I think that they're going to continue to have to outscore people when you look at, because a lot of the guys that they played really got experience that are underclassmen. So I look at their football team on offense. The only real spot that you're really going to have to redevelop is the quarterback. Now, you don't know who that's going to be, and I'm assuming that's going to be answered in recruiting. But most of the line played pretty well, and a lot of it's back. The running back situation should be very good with Zwinak. The receivers situation, the tight end, is a great position. So I think offensively they should be right back where they were. I mean, let's face it, he showed that he could develop somebody that really had some experience but didn't have a lot of confidence going into the season.
Let's wrap up on one aspect that I would just call kind of a silly situation. The money that's involved now with these coaching scenarios. Okay, if the Jaguars or the Chiefs or some lower tier NFL team comes offer him I can't see him taking that. But if somebody wants to come back a truckload of money into his backyard, a college or pro team, if you saw this Tuesday night, Arkansas is reportedly offering Les Miles $27.5 million for 5 years. That's insanity. Yeah. But Jerry Jones is involved. He's an Arkansas alum. At some point, this is the question I want to ask you, at some point, would Bill O'Brien have enough leverage to where Penn State's going to have to fork over another $1.5 million? It's $2.3 million now. If they want to keep this guy in a year or two, and somebody's going to offer him 4 or 5 elsewhere, is Penn State going to have to match that?
Maybe so. I mean, I see on ESPN.com, Joe Linta, who's Bill O'Brien's agent, is talking about maybe trying to get another $100,000 out of a bowl because they had enough wins to be bowl eligible. So, I don't know what all goes on behind the scenes. I know there's a lot of NFL guys like Mike Tomlin that they enter December and they really don't know where they're going to coach next year. They move around, they become the hot candidate, and a great job opens up. And, Bill O'Brien probably didn't have a lot of lead time on the Penn State situation. Mm-hmm. Couldn't have been more than a few weeks. So, I think it's a different dynamic that we're dealing with. I see him as more of an Eastern guy with both he and his family. I think their roots are up in New England, so I'd be surprised if he takes off for Kansas City. And I think some of these NFL jobs, the minute you get there, your clock is ticking. Right. He has job security for a long time if he wants it.
Yeah, the guy did an amazing job. That's really the bottom line. Neil and I both think that he's sticking around at least this year. Beyond this year, we'll see. But I would agree with Neil. If he were to leave after this season, you're talking about just devastation. But I think he's...
The other thing is, I think he appeared to be completely embraced by the Penn State community, and he appeared to enjoy it. I mean, from what I could tell in the relationships that we were around with him. So, I don't know what's all going on. I'm sure there's some frustration with the NCAA and whatnot, but I think it was a great first year.
For Neil Rudel, I'm Cory Geiger. Thanks for tuning in.